And joining me now from London to discuss the diplomatic spat between France and Azerbaijan is Javier Farje, a former guest lecturer at the University of London. And from Baku, Ahmad Shahidov, director of the Azerbaijan Institute for Democracy and Human Rights. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining me on Strait Talk. So, Javier, what do you make of the latest diplomatic spat between France and Azerbaijan over the crisis in New Caledonia? Where does this come from?
Well, France has accused Azerbaijan of interfering and promoting the riots in New Caledonia. It is an accusation which has no basis because, first of all, there's a big geographical distance between Azerbaijan and New Caledonia. It would have been very difficult for Azerbaijan to be part of it. But what is important to emphasize is that the grievances of the Kanak people, the local population, the original natives of New Caledonia, go well before Azerbaijan's support for the pro-independence movement. We are talking about the 2021 referendum where the local Kanaki pro-independence movement asked France to postpone it because of the coronavirus. They didn't do that, and only 43% of people voted, and 97% of all those people voted in favor of staying in France. So that created great resentment because there was no legitimacy in the result of this referendum. So the grievances of the people of New Caledonia were reflected in the riots early this year. Now, why did the riots occur? Because younger people, who were mainly those who rioted, accused France of limiting the power, limiting the capacity of the local Kanaki people to self-determination. But also they criticized their own leaders for being too conciliatory with France.
Yes.
So it is absurd to think that Azerbaijan has something to do with such big riots that have more to do with the grievances of the local population rather than the relation between France and Azerbaijan.
So, Ahmed, France's interior minister went further and claimed that the Caledonian pro-independence leaders have made an agreement, a deal with Azerbaijan, which denied the accusations. So what interest does Baku have in backing the indigenous people of the island, who are against the new French voting law?
First, I want to mention that the tension between France and Azerbaijan starts a couple years ago when Azerbaijan started to liberate its territories from Armenian occupation. France, one of the co-chairs of OSCE Minsk group, who was the responsible to moderate this negotiation between Azerbaijan and Armenia, standing next to Armenia, and by the way, accused Azerbaijan on attacking to Armenia. But in fact, Azerbaijan launched this anti-terror operation on its territory, own territory, and liberated on its territory. So the tension between Paris and Baku started over the Armenia, and then Paris, after the finishing the war in Karabakh, France continued its accusation to Azerbaijan, and in response to this policy, Baku started to become a center and for dialogue for African and other countries who suffer from the France colonial policy. And today, the people, the representative of the people of New Caledonia who suffer from the Paris policy come to Baku and have dialogue. And Azerbaijan, by supporting these people in New Caledonia, once again showed to all European world and once again to France that France should end this colonial policy. And
yes,
the people in New Caledonia has the right for their independence as well. France, who shows them as a center of democracy in the world, continue in 2024
yes,
its colonial policy in New Caledonia.
So, Javier, what do you think? How much of this spat is being influenced by the stalled Azerbaijan-Armenia peace process?
Well, definitely. The issue is that many critics of Azerbaijan's support of the New Caledonian pro-independence movement say that this is what they call selective decolonization. That means that they are very selective in what kind of causes they support, and they are supporting this cause because France is the colonial power. That is even if that is the case, let's assume for a moment that that is the case, which could be the case because people find allies in different parts of the world depending on what kind of person they agree with. Even that was the case, for the Kanaki people, that doesn't really matter, that's irrelevant. They need allies which will help them fight for self-determination. But, and this is extremely important, this was part of the Baku initiative, of which Azerbaijan is just one country out of 15, including Turkey, which doesn't have, as we all know, a colonial sort of history. That's why the conference on decolonization happened in Istanbul earlier this year. So yes, but there might be a relation. Azerbaijan might have reasons to support that, but this is an initiative that comes from other countries as well, part of the Baku initiative. In that context, we have to see it as support for the pro-independence movement in New Caledonia, rather than a conflict which is related to relations between France and Azerbaijan. It could be related to that, but I don't think the Kanak people in New Caledonia will care very much about that, for as long as they have allies to fight for the self-determination that even the UN has said that they should have, because they have criticized the lack of power that the Kanaki people have in New Caledonia.
But Ahmed, what is Baku looking to achieve in establishing those close contacts with these French territories?
Of course, I support the ideas, the opinion of my colleague from London. Baku is just the center for dialogue, and we have the Baku initiative process. This is not the private desire of Azerbaijan to support the right of New Caledonia. This is the international desire. The international community just assembly in Baku in the framework of the Baku process, Baku dialogue process, and all people, all representatives of those people in New Caledonia or other regions who suffer from the colonial policy of France or other European Western countries, they just come to Baku to discuss their problem and to express and to deliver their voice to international community. Here, Azerbaijan is presented like the center, like international platform where all these people express their own opinion. And of course, Azerbaijan, as a part of this international community, does its best to support those people, those nations who suffer from the colonial policy. And it's also affects to the mutual relations with France and Azerbaijan. And that's why official Paris accused Azerbaijan in supporting those people. It's the right of Azerbaijan and its responsibility as well of Azerbaijan to support those people who need to be independent as well, because there are 18,000 kilometers between France and New Caledonia. It's normal to keep this colonial policy nowadays in 2024. And it also impacts on relations between Paris and Azerbaijan. Paris also attacks Azerbaijan in international platforms, international organizations. For example, in January this year, by the initiative of France in Strasbourg, Azerbaijani delegation was suspended for 12 months from Council of Europe, Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, in OEC, in European Parliament, in PASE, in other international organizations where France is one of the leading countries. Paris attacks Azerbaijan, and they are trying to suspend Azerbaijan from this international organization. In response to this policy, Azerbaijan organized anti-Paris people and give them platform in Baku to deliver the message and to raise their voice against France.
So Javier, what do you think? I mean, has New Caledonia become an unexpected geopolitical struggle between France, China and Russia? What do you think?
Well, yes, I mean, Macron went to New Caledonia to try to solve out the problem of the riots, even though he has a lot of problems in the domestic front. That shows how important it is for Macron to try to solve that situation. Now, obviously, in terms of the geopolitics of the whole thing, which is where your question goes, obviously has something to do with that. Now, let me put this into this context. When Nelson Mandela was released in 1984, and then he traveled in 1990 to the US, he was asked by somebody, why is it that he had allies with Arafat, Fidel Castro, and Gaddafi? And Mandela answered this question very simple. The problem with certain political pundits is that they think that their enemy should be our enemy. And we do not consider that, because those people supported the anti-apartheid struggle to the hilt, almost quote unquote. Let's transfer that to the issue of New Caledonia and France. The Kanaki people want allies so they can help them fight for more self-determination, something which the latest reform that France wanted to propose does not help with. And they will have allies in many different parts of the world. Once again, I would like to go back to the issue. Baku initiative is not only Azerbaijan, it's other countries, including Turkey, which, again, I want to repeat this because it's extremely important, doesn't have a colonial baggage there. So, yes, it is part of the whole geopolitical issue, but also we mustn't lose sight of the fact that the Kanaki people are entitled to more self-determination, and France is clumsily dealing with the situation at the moment.
So, Ahmed, we're talking about diplomatic spats between Azerbaijan and France, but both countries' mutual investments total around a few $1 billion. We know that. So how has that balance changed since then, and how have worsening relations between the two countries impacted their economies so far?
I don't think that this political tension between the two countries will impact on the economy ties, because the problem is with the Macron authority and Macron government. I don't think that all political parties, all political powers in France see Azerbaijan as their rival opponent. I don't think that, because before the Macron, during the Sarkozy or other presidents, we had really fruitful and positive relations, contacts with Paris. But especially during the 44-day Second Karabakh War, when Azerbaijan decided to liberate its territories, Macron's government, official Paris, accused Azerbaijan on occupation of so-called territories, because these territories belong to Azerbaijan. And all international community recognize these territories as the integral part of Azerbaijan. And I think that after Macron, the new government who will come to the power in France, they will review the policy between those countries as well as Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a very kind and peaceful country, and doesn't see France as its rival or opponent or enemy. We have the problem only with the Macron government. I think that after Macron, we can review the relations with France again.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Strait Talk. And that's all for this edition of Strait Talk with me, Ayşe Suberker. If you've got any comments, please share them with us on X at Strait Talk TRT. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.